Wash. Whoa. There's still plenty of meat on that bone. Now you take this home, throw it in a pot, add some broth, a potato. Baby, you got a stew going.
Hello, you beautiful nerds. There's a new Predator movie out there, and you will be forgiven for not realizing that, because I don't feel like this has been really well advertised. I mean, I knew it was coming out because I read nerd news every day like a freak, but I kept seeing this poster, and unless you have a keen eye and notice those tiny 3 dots and immediately twigged what that means, you would never guess that this is a Predator prequel by looking at it. I honestly thought that this movie might end up being poodoo, but director Dan Trachtenberg further solidifies his style with this heart-racing action thriller that is nostalgic and original all at the same time. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's talk about what we're talking about. Now, if you haven't seen this movie yet, I highly recommend you stop this video and go watch it right now. Or, watch it before you watch this video. I don't know what you're doing right now. I don't want to ruin anything for you, and this movie is incredible, so just go ahead and watch it before you watch the rest of this video. But if you've already seen it, or you don't got time to bleed, then have a seat, have a joint, have a drink, and let's talk about... But first, Prelude. In the year of our Lord, 1990... something. I don't remember. I saw my first Predator movie, though it wasn't the first Predator movie. When I was a kid, I have a pretty vivid memory of turning on the TV and Predator 2 was like 10 minutes in. And I thought, Danny Glover? Steve Kahan? Gary Busey? Is this a Lethal Weapon movie that I've never seen before? Anyway, I really dug it, and it made me an official yet low-key Predator fan. Even though it's not a fan favorite, I still like that movie. And the first one obviously holds up really well. 14 years later, we get our first Alien vs. Predator flick. The movie was fun, and to this day, it's still the highest grossing Predator flick by, a lot. AVP 2 was boring and dumb. Predators was pretty good, and I honestly haven't seen The Predator because I really like Shane Black, and I want it to stay that way. But anyway, most of the Predator movies are pretty good, so even though everything around this movie was giving me cause to pause, I was still willing to give it a shot. So this film follows Naru, a young Comanche tracker and healer who wants to be a great hunter like her big brother Top. She's very skilled, but it's clear that the rest of the tribe doesn't want to see her as anything but a healer because she's a woman. So one day she decides to prove herself by going on a hunt alone. Well, almost alone. She's got her cute ass dog with her. This dog is amazing. Starting the campaign right now for Best Supporting Acting nom. Anyway, later on her hunt to prove herself, she finds out that there are more dangerous things than lions, tigers, and bears.
Lions, the tigers, bears.
I mean, there are no tigers, but it just felt good to say. Leave me alone. Predator kind of feels like since the beginning, it has the theme of killing just for the fuck of it is wrong. Not necessarily anti-hunting, but anti-excessively hunting for sport. That's why these predators are the bad guys. They're like, what if a species only focused on how to be the best killer? How far would that go? I mean, even in the original Predator movie, Dutch says, we're not assassins, we're a rescue unit. We don't just kill for no reason. And throughout Prey, the film makes sure to remind the audience of that amazing tagline. They hunt to live, he lives to hunt. Though there's a lot of pride attached to it, the Comanche only hunt to feed themselves or to protect their home, while the Predator and the French voyagers who kill animals or mutilate them just for the sake of a trophy. Lead actress Amber Midthunder is incredible as Naru. I remember her being one of my favorite characters in Legion, and it was exciting to see her headlining her own flick. Naru is an interesting character because she obviously doesn't take herself too seriously, but she also has that chip on her shoulder from everyone telling her what she can and can't do. And because of that insecurity and lack of attention, she works twice as hard as the men for a sliver of recognition. She's also clearly inspired by her brother and her late father, still using her father's blade to hunt even though it wasn't meant for that. The film does a great job of character building, especially in the first half of the movie, and it manages to do it without paragraphs and paragraphs of dialogue. The visual storytelling in this movie is insane, and the filmmakers did a remarkable remarkable job of setup and payoff, which culminates into an insanely satisfying ending. You see Naru fail a bunch in this movie, but you also see how she learns from each fuck up and applies it to the next conflict. There's a trope that is so annoying in monster versus human movies that I'm so glad that they avoided in this one. When a normal person comes up on a huge monster that could kill them with one blow, and the whole fight consists of the monster grabbing the human and throwing them across the room. That takes so much of the suspense out of the scene for me because it feels like the monster isn't even trying to kill him. I know from that first toss across the room that this person isn't in any danger. I think it's way more thrilling when a person has to narrowly avoid getting hit or captured, because if they do, everything is over. Like if Naru takes a punch like this to the face, her neck is gonna snap or her spine would like spin backwards or some such shit. Remember this scene from Game of Thrones? This scene doesn't lack suspense because Pedro isn't getting hit. It's suspenseful because we know that if the mountain so much as grabs this dude, Pedro is gonna be eating his fucking teeth. Which, spoiler alert, this film illustrates very well that if you make one mistake against this guy, you're fucking dead meat. Every move has to be precise, fast, and it doesn't hurt to have a fucking plan. And the movie builds to that because the previous interactions with the Predator show other people make mistakes and get killed, while Naru observes and learns. In fact, in a lot of ways, Naru and Predator mirror each other. They both are learning from their environment in order to become better hunters, and they're both on a hunt on their own, trying to hunt something that is hunting them in order to prove themselves to their tribe. And in the final scene, she uses the mistakes that she made, that her tribe made, and the French made to formulate the perfect plan to take down the weakened Predator. Because he gets his ass kicked throughout this whole movie. He gets like mauled by a fucking bear. All these fucking French dudes fuck him up kind of bad. He gets stabbed in the back. Like he's having a rough go of it.
You play too rough. I'm going home.
Speaking of which, the Predator is the best he's ever looked in this movie. His movements have never been more fluid, and the makeup looks phenomenal. Other than the times when he's invisible, it's not a CGI creation. It's a guy in a suit and makeup, and I feel like that makes all the fight scenes a lot more tangible and raw. I also dig how they depowered the Predator a little bit. I mean, it is 300 years earlier than the first one, so it makes sense that the dude isn't quite as high-tech as we're used to. His helmet looks super low-tech, and instead of a laser cannon that cuts people in half, it shoots out these guided arrows, which they do a lot of cool shit with. There's kind of a build to the action. The movie starts out with some hunting action, then there are some creepy, stalking, stealthy kills, but then toward the end, it goes full action movie mode, and the Predator executes one of the most fun kill everybody in the room scenes ever put to film. It is kind of weird that the movie is in English. There were apparently talks of making the whole film in the Comanche language, but they decided on a more casual English dialect so the actors' performances would be more natural sounding.
I challenged myself to like not need like historical realism so much, especially when it comes to native stuff, because then we start to tread into like bad like stereotypes and shit. Where the Indians talk slowly and with staccato, and you know, it's just like stoic bullshit.
There is a Comanche dubbed version of the film with the voices of the original cast available, and that's the first time that's ever happened for a movie, so that's pretty cool. Director Dan Trachtenberg is something of a newcomer in filmmaking. This is only his second film, but it does seem like there is a through line for the two. Beyond both movies being really fucking good, Dan seems to be adept at taking these dramatically compelling stories and injecting a supernatural element into it. 10 Cloverfield Lane is already a pretty terrifying concept if you're just looking at the kidnapping aspect, but then with the sci-fi twist, it just makes that relatively small movie feel much bigger than the sum of its parts. Prey does the same thing. This story is already really interesting before you add the element of homicidal alien monsters, and I think that's where a lot of the humanity comes from. I mean, it all feels so grounded. There are no grenades or guns or rocket launchers in this movie, but it still manages to feel epic and simultaneously deeply personal.
Why do you want to hunt? Because you all think that I can't.
Lastly, I feel like I gotta address this fandom out there that thinks that every movie that has a woman or person of color, or God forbid, both, that it's some sort of diversity scheme by the powers that be. You make a movie about a woman and it's a political agenda. You make a movie about a white dude and it's just how it is. How does that work? I mean, this is a story about a young person who longs for adventure despite their family telling them to do boring shit. And then said young person, against all odds, does something no one else could do by defeating an impossibly powerful threat. I mean, if that makes Naru a Mary Sue cancel culture woke SJW cupcake, then so is fucking Luke Skywalker, cause he has the same goddamn story. Now, there's definitely examples out there of studios or corporations pandering to an audience to save face. Hell, I just made a video about that. But that totally is not what this is. Her gender doesn't really come into play as much as her inexperience does. And not for nothing, this movie does also pass the Bechdel test. Which, in case you don't know, the Bechdel test is a way of evaluating whether or not a film portrays women in a sexist way. To pass the Bechdel test, the film has to have at least 2 female characters who talk to each other, and their conversation can't be about a man. This movie also passes the test for when at least 2 people of color have a conversation and it isn't about their race or oppression. There's no name for that test because I just made it up, so for this channel we'll just call it the Color People Test, aka the CPT. I went into Prey just hoping it wouldn't suck, and it ended up being one of my favorite movies this year. It's fun, touching, and moves at a neck-breaking pace that doesn't give you a chance to get bored. Upon multiple viewings, it is very referential to older films, but on the first watch, most of those went over my head. So in my opinion, it's not distractingly fan-servicey. Hell, I only caught this reference because I rewatched Predator 2 a few hours before I saw this flick. But most of the other Easter eggs just made it more enjoyable on repeat viewings. This has been a pretty great time in entertainment where we are finally seeing some solid Native American representation in film. I mean, it took literally forever, but studios are putting serious money behind telling stories from this community. I hate that this movie didn't get a theatrical release, especially since it looks so phenomenal. Like, I would love to see this on a big screen. Apparently, Hulu is trying to drive more subscribers to its platform and decided to forego a theatrical release in order to tempt audiences into signing up to Hulu or some such shit. Seems kind of like a bunch of crap to cover up some HBO Max IP inside baseball, but I do hope this gets a re-release in theaters because I feel like this flick deserves to be seen on the big screen. I can honestly keep talking about this movie forever, but I guess I should wrap this up. But before I go, I should say where this ranks among all the other Predator flicks for me. Let's see, AVP 2 is the worst. That movie is dog shit. AVP 1 is right behind that one. It's pretty good. Predator 2 is probably next, but it's still very fun. I mean, look, you got Murtaugh acting like Riggs out here. Predators is pretty good. Feels kind of samey, but the opening scene is incredible, and that cast is bananas. Predator is next. It's a goddamn classic. It's incredible. And yeah, Prey has made it to the top of the mountain for me. And the Predator is that movie doesn't exist.
I don't even remember that.
Predator is still an amazing movie. I still love it, and I think it holds up really well. It's a fantastic action flick with a surprising level of social commentary. Or at least I hope that this is commentary on the Vietnam War and hypermasculinity. Otherwise, that shit is hard to watch.
Bunch of slap-jawed faggots around here.
But this movie executed on every level the original did, but managed to put a spin on it by placing it in a unique setting and adding some emotional weight and thematic symbolism. This wasn't necessarily a franchise that was in desperate need of revitalization. In fact, they only make these movies every once in a while. I was surprised to hear that they were making another one so quick. But Prey was able to do something we've never really seen before while also reminding us why the first movie worked so well. It's an extraordinary David and Goliath tale that has more heart, artful direction, and cute dogs than the original, and it's this little blood and gore lover's opinion that Prey is all the better for it and is now the greatest Predator movie of all time. My ranking, I loved it. Alright guys, thanks for watching, but what's your favorite Predator movie and where does this new one rank for you? Let us know in the comments, and also let us know if there's anything you guys want us to talk about. Check out my review for seasons 1 through 3 of For All Mankind, and stay tuned for my review of Paper Girls. Don't forget to check out the podcast if you want to hear us chat about Andor, House of the Dragon, or Rings of Power. But until next time, stay safe my little sexual tyrannosauruses, and may the Force be with you.